Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Jerusalem Connection Red Alert. And today we have a special guest with us, Inna Rogatchi, our dear and longtime friend. She and her husband, Michael, are close personal friends of our late founders, Pat and Jim Hutchens. And there is a long history there that I will let Inna tell us about in just a moment to remind you all. We also have our president, Shelley Neath, here because we love to see her face periodically, even though we hear her voice every Friday on the podcast Bible Fiber, which I encourage you all to check out on our blog or social media or podcast pages. So welcome, Inna, and thank you for joining us again. We had you on last March. I think it was last March, where we started a project called Dnipro Relief, or Ukraine Relief, and specifically targeting the municipality of Dnipro for some very special reasons, and because you have a connection to that community. So why don't you just remind our viewers a brief history of that, and then we can have an update, because we're also mailing out an update this month that our receivers will get in an email or in a paper form with the latest news from Dnipro and that relief.
Thank you, Amy, very much. Thank you, Shelley. Thank you, everyone who is watching us. And it's always a pleasure to be with you and to talk with your audience, because we know that we're talking with people who understand us and we understand them. And this is loving audience, and loving is an important thing in life. And just to remind very quickly that my husband, Michael, and I were really very close friends of Pat and Jim Hutchens. And they were fantastic people, and they are still with us. And because of them, we know you and Shelley, and because of them, we're still working together. And I think it's a very important legacy and ensuring one. And I was thinking before we started our meeting that it was almost a year ago when we spoke. And it was before, or actually it was at the time of previous Purim. And now we are months away from Purim. And at that time, I don't think that you, Amy, or you, Shelley, or anyone who are listening to us were thinking that the whole war will go for so long, for 1 year by now, and that it also will be as cruel as we all see daily, and as inhuman as well. And this is something that we are living through, which nobody of us was expected. And then why Dnipro? Dnipro, actually, because of recent events, there were very many publications about specifically that city and that community in international press and Jewish press. And I was, with a slight surprise, noticed that everyone is mentioning that it's the place of largest Jewish community in Ukraine, as it happened. And it's also the place of largest in the world Jewish community center, which they were able to build and maintain now. There is a lovely Jewish community which has a very long tradition, which is connected to the family of Rabbi Schneerson. And our families are from there, and we're still keeping in touch with this community. The last exhibition of Pat Hutchens was actually there, and this largest in the world Jewish World Center. And Pat very generously, and Jim, presented the whole collection of these 40 works of Auschwitz Revisited album by her, and Shelley was there to represent the Jerusalem connection, for which we all are very grateful to her, to you, Shelley. And so this is some special connection between the Jewish community of Dnipro, was the Rogatchi Foundation, and you, the Jerusalem Connection. And I think it's a blessing that they have people and organization who cares about them, because there are so many subjects and objects for relief and for help in Ukraine, that if we will send it unaddressedly, so people will not get it. It will be somewhere, but without concrete addressing, it will be not efficient. what we do, we speak with people in Dnipro community. Uh, Rabbi Kamenetsky, very famous rabbi, one of the leading rabbis of Chabad, Lubavitch Chabad, and with leadership of community, women, men, heads of the educational program, heads of the community, heads of the medical relief and support, speaking with them weekly for sure, and sometimes as soon as needed, as often as needed. We establish the needs, the acute needs. And previously we did help the house with your help, so your people help, and we little bit also added to that. A house for elderly, it was our first address, and and then we helped the small hospice for 25 people
Wow.
and children. And because most of the children from yeshiva and girls, they were evacuated in the beginning, but preparing to our conversation today, I have spoken with people there. They told me the following. They have, the community is vulnerable. From strong and self-assured community, it became vulnerable because many people left, as it can be understood. And who is left? Elderly people, those who cannot leave, and also young people with young families, because not necessarily they all can leave. So what they told me, they have three groups of children, really small ones, from say 3 to 5, those about 15. They are there. They are living under bombs practically.
Wow.
And then they have a school age children, both boys and girls, also about 20, maybe more, but something like that. And those who really need help. And then they have teenagers,
Mm.
also about 15, 20. So what they were saying, about 70 children from 5 to 17, something like that. This is groups, three groups of children who are now today are living there. And I asked, what about school? They said there's no school, but it's everyday school, via online. So they're not risking them to sit down in the school, but they are still working on that. They organized, very fortunately, all camps for children, winter camps for boys and winter camps for girls. So community paid for that entirely for all of them. So there were 70 girls, not only from Dnipro, but from other communities. So 70 girls and 50 boys.
Wow.
It
And
was
is
for
this
2 weeks.
camp happening at the Menorah Center in Dnipro, or is it
No,
happening at
no.
the yeshiva?
They took them to Western Ukraine, to Western
Okay.
Ukraine.
Okay,
So,
got it.
and in Menorah, they have occasionally, say once 2 weeks, 10 days, something kind of events. So they do have events, and especially what I put my attention, they have events with small children, with this first group of this 15, because they would like to give them idea of normality in life. So life is normal. So they are studying alphabet, Hebrew alphabet. So they are studying something about vegetables. They are studying nature. And by the way, those children, as they send me some photos, I will show them. They are pretty happy. So you wouldn't say that, but elderly children, they're not. So it can be seen that because they understand more, they are engaged in something happened, and also one has to remind that to be reminded that the situation with electricity is terrible. We did help with your help with generators, but every time I'm speaking with them, just literally every time, if last time we spoke, it was 6 in the evening, and they said we had no electricity from the morning, and it became as a routine, an awful routine, because initially we all were terrified how they can survive, how they can manage. and they didn't know what to do and how to behave. They were thinking about what happened not only with electricity but with water, of course, with heating, with anything, with sewage, with anything. By now, they are all experts, but very sad ones. It's very, very sad to speak with them because we do not experience this kind of life. So we are living in normality, and they're not. And they are
Wow.
living not only in extreme, but they are living in mortal danger, basically. And it's fortunately it's not cold, because it's not cold there, thank heaven. So far it wasn't. I think it was about 10 in Celsius or something like that, but it's very dark. It's very dark. And for instance, the last awful thing what happened with catastrophe of helicopter, in which Minister for Interior and his two deputies were killed. Basically, what they said to me is that it happened because of absence of electricity. Because of absence of electricity, because of energy cut, those houses which are multi-storied houses, they normally has to have red lamps over. So that morning of which it happened, they had not, because it was electricity cut, and this poor pilot simply, and it was fog, and this poor pilot simply didn't see
The building.
anything. And it was huge building, a high-rise building, and when he saw it, it was too late, and so he averted. He didn't hit that building, but he fell on kindergarten. So he averted in the last moment, and he fell on kindergarten, and it was because it was electricity cut. So this electricity cut, they could actually be so menacious and absolute mortal danger.
Deadly,
And
yeah.
so, yeah, and I spoke with them, and they are weird. Their voices are weird, and they said that, well, we have no electricity. There's no, like, like very, very tired people, and sad, I would say, trying to communicate normally. So that, like mentioning that, so we are without electricity from the morning, like
Wow.
mention registering that, and this is really
Just
really
brutal.
and then of course, yes, and then of course it was this awful missile attack on this building, and the entire city was. I really appreciated very much the solidarity, because people immediately opened special chat, and in this chat they proposed to families, because it was like over 246 apartments were destroyed, and 70 of them destroyed completely. So 250 apartments, and people immediately invited the people who needed to accommodate them. We accommodate family with children. So please come, do come. So and then in 2 or 3 days, so they collected a lot of whatever needed, and food and clothes and everything. But still 7 people are missing, and 7 they couldn't recognize, because probably it's nothing left to be recognized. They know that there are 7 bodies, but they don't know who they are, and 7 people are missing completely.
And it was 40 or so dead, right? Like reported dead.
Yes, my husband, Michael's uncle was living very, very nearby, so we know it's a very residential area. There are houses, the houses are staying there very, very close each to the other, as everybody was on the picture. So it's pretty much residential area, and a lot of people, thousands of people are living there. So.
It is amazing.
And
Last March when we were talking,
yeah,
I mean, not only did we think we would still be here in a year, but also that Ukraine had a chance, that this that every weapon they were given, that every front line they were afforded, that they are very much in this war. So it also feels like we can't fatigue from Ukraine news. I mean, Ukraine has a distinct possibility of retaining their independence, and you listen to any Ukrainian leader, and there is no other option. Like
No.
right. So I mean, we know that the rebuild, I mean, we just look forward to the point that we're also on here talking to you about how do we help rebuild a strong and independent Ukraine. My husband always talks about our first family vacation to Ukraine, that we're just going to go to bakeries and like every local business, and
we will join you. We definitely will join you.
try and boost. Ukraine needs a tourist economy again. But
Definitely.
can you give us an update too, just in terms of where things stand at the Menorah Center in particular? Like, are they, now that Dnipro is an endangered city, are they still able to house internal refugees in Ukraine, or what's happening there?
Yes, refugees are still there because it's still less less dangerous than in areas which are just 100 kilometers from them, like Zaporizhia, where the nuclear plant is. And so people from there, and also from a little bit farther, Kherson part, which is 120, 130 kilometers, which is not occupied by Russians, also from there, but it's also dangerous part. So people are still flocking to Dnipro, and this is one thing. And as we were speaking and writing, so people do need job. There are so many people with families, and then we have this vicious circle when they are coming and they cannot let their kids for kindergarten because kindergarten are private, so you have to pay, and you have no money to pay because you have no job. So this is this kind of vicious circle that people need to crack, and it's not easy. And Menorah is functioning partially, of course, not completely. And every time we speak with them, every time we see whatever they are sending us, photos or short videos, there's less and less people there. And they also, as I said, everybody is very sad. They are very dignified and decent, and they're trying to, whatever you speak with them, they will tell you things. People are used to everything, so we are okay, we are normal, we are okay, everything will be fine, we will sustain. That's what they are saying. But they all said, of course, very concerned, and starting to be weird off, because it's about a year. And I'm very often thinking how for how long a human being can sustain it. We all have of course, the knowledge and about the Second World War and Holocaust and everything, and it was 4 years, and now we're living the war because our close people are there, so we're partially living that, and 1 year is very, very long time. So they are smaller, substantially smaller in number. They are sad. They are trying the most. What makes me very, very sad and emotional, not only in Dnipro but also in Zhytomyr. It's another community of Lubavitch, and our foundation did help them. That adults trying so hard to make life for children normal. So they are, when they are with children, they are, I think, much more control themselves, and they're smiling, and they're behaving, for instance, teachers behaving like nothing happened. So like they're teaching those girls and boys, and this really makes me very emotional, because I know what it means, and children also knows. They also know. But so everybody pretends that life goes on as nothing happened, and this pretension, this dignified thing, it's admirable, but it's very difficult to watch, and one wants to help as much as one can. And for instance, Michael and I, we almost monthly we're doing a new campaign like issuing. So what we can do, we can issue our art, some specific art, and to ask our friends everywhere to support it, because it goes for this very purpose. And so that we will do it again and again and again. But so I wish very much that we would not be in position to do it any longer, but we are. So Menorah is shrinking, that's for sure. People are trying to bring people to some activities, for instance, to make some excursion to place important in history of Lubavitch movement, and they do have some places like 100 kilometers from Dnipro. So but how many they could take? 10 people, 12 people, 15 people, everything shrink in numbers very, very substantially. So they are, I would say, honestly, remnants of life, of Jewish life there. And to give it the contrast of this huge and marvelous Menorah Center and the small group of people who is heroically supported by the rabbi and his wife. So because family is there, they had the option, of course, to go to New York or Israel. They didn't. So they are staying with their community. And it's absolutely important for people because they are rabbis, as we all know, and they are legendary rabbis. And Rabbi Kamenetsky is legendary, and Shelley met him, so she knows what I'm talking about. And he is extremely wise, calm, but extremely strong and understanding. So, for instance, he gave us, and he every week, connected with Parasha of the Torah, he gives a lesson to those people who left. And the lesson is like that. What to do when you think, you believe that you are in total despair, for instance. Who is the right leader? So he basically teaches and supports people to live through this. And in very, I wouldn't say direct way, no, but the very special way. And his wife is supporting everything what they do with women. They're trying to do some kind of small, not even fast, what kind of fast they can do, but just something little to come together and to be together and to support each other. This is basically now became their main activity. And as long as Rabbi and Rebbetzin is there, so community lives. I never saw anything like that in front of me, because we always were sure that things are okay, normal, good. Now they are totally not okay, not normal, and not good, but they are there, and it's absolutely important.
Wow.
Thank goodness for strong leaders that are committed to stay. I mean, the world has heard of Zelensky at this point. Like, the world knows, but you're right. The rabbi of Dnipro is the Zelensky for the religious community. His presence.
Absolutely. And if you remember that it's him, Rabbi Kamenetsky, who gave Zelensky Torah when Zelensky was taking the oath. So it's not without reason. Not without reason.
Yeah, wow. That's amazing. No, I can't get enough of Zelensky.
Very true. Very true. And he has his birthday, 45 years. So
wow.
For a year, we always joke that we'd get up, drink coffee, check on Zelensky. Like, that's
I can see the King David in the modern incarnation in him, because he didn't expect anything like that to happen in his life, and then he took it so honestly. This honesty of his perception, I think, his main weapon. And his wife, when she congratulated him on his 45th birthday, she made a very good point. She said, "How did you change through this 1 year? You didn't."
Hmm.
So,
History gave
and I
them the
think that,
chance.
yeah, yeah. So I think it's really important.
Yes.
And if not for him, I don't know how they will sustain, for sure. Because he speaks every single night with people, to his
Wow.
people, every night.
Yeah, that's leadership, right?
Yeah.
Just connecting with your people and being
And it's a big
strong.
country. It's not that I can imagine something like that in small country, because small country gives you intimacy and feeling and knowledge. Country of 45 million, which very
Hmm.
different, 45 million. And then regions in Ukraine are very different as well,
Hmm.
very different. Western Ukraine, very different from Eastern Ukraine, South and from the center. They're big region. Ukraine is of size of France, and it has 45 people, 45 million people. So it's not homogeneous society. So to be able to lead this in with
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
efficiency.
A unity. He has a unity or a unifying quality to
Yeah.
his leadership. So that's important.
Mm.
Ina, thank you for sharing what's going on, and we are going to continue to support
Yeah.
the needs and provide resources as much as we can. You know, we recently had on January 27th, Holocaust Remembrance Day, and I just wanted to ask you your thoughts on that as you're watching that what's transpiring in Europe and in Ukraine.
It's a very good question, I mean, because as you know, I'm working on the Holocaust for all my life,
Mm-hmm.
and more than 35 years I am in this. So I thought I know things about Holocaust when the war started, and then when it progressed and it became of a character which it is now. I understood that actually we didn't. Those people who lived through Holocaust, they do. We who are following and trying to understand now only, we can see what happened, what happens to human beings, what happened to human society, what human soul, all this cruelty, absolutely unexpected cruelty, and just puzzlement of how on earth it was possible. And today I saw an exhibit in London, which they brought to Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv University, in which we also, our foundation also made a very good symposium a couple of years ago on the Holocaust art. Now, Viennir Library in London, they brought the only exhibit, the only copy left of an awful game for children. And this is, it was manufactured in Nazi Germany, and it was, I think, 1 million copies. 1 million copies was fabricated of taking Jews away, Jews out. It's called Jews out. So children has to play with this to get as many Jews out as possible from the city, from the map of commercial area, of residential areas. So this was the game. And only one of them, only one copy of this game survives. And now it became an exhibit in the special event of on Holocaust Remembrance Day. But I'm just
Wow.
thinking that was that with, for instance, synagogue in Kharkov was bombed several months ago, and fortunately nothing awful happened, but it cannot be used, and this is exactly the same thing. And what happened with Jews of Ukraine is that they all communities had to evacuate their children from yeshivas and from schools just in order for them to be survived. So they are unable to live in their houses, they are unable to live in their places, in their country, with their friends. They are eradicated and take, of course, yes, to safety, but out of normality of life. out of normal life. And just if to speak about in general situation, so it's 7,000 children was killed during this year.
Wow.
This is beyond, if only it had some reason, but this is the most unreasonable war I ever saw and read in my life, and now we're living through that. This is just unreasonable. And also how people react to that. There are so many people who are helping and who are feeling and who would like to help. And this is very encouraging, because it certainly was not the case like that in Holocaust. People were helping, but they were afraid of doing so, because especially in the occupied countries, as we know, so people were punished by death. So very many writers of nations and their heroes, but still in general it was not acceptable in occupied countries like any to help. Now the world is helping, but also what makes me very I don't know, not puzzled anymore, but outraged, this cruelty of the Russian side, the cruelty that and readiness of them to be that brutal and that hostile and that criminal, because they are conducting military crimes and crimes against humanity on daily basis. And readiness, preparedness of this is beyond. We have friends in Ukraine and from Ukraine, and who were admiring Russian culture and everything. And they said to me just yesterday that what on earth has happened to this society? It was much more humane. There were so many outstanding writers and artists and you name it, and culture was humane. So what on earth happened with them? Why society is just acting like that? And this is, I think, qualitative change, which doesn't promise anything good.
No.
I think just connecting the dots, think about 1943 and Germany taking over Ukraine, and
Yes,
for the few righteous Gentiles who hid Jews during that time, and took that risk. And now I think about the Menorah Center and the rabbi there making Menorah Center available for safe shelter.
Yes,
Gentiles, and so ultimately the Jewish value and the Christian value of life above all, hopefully comes to the surface, because of faith on both sides.
definitely.
So sometimes we have to take turns in who we're sheltering and protecting.
Yeah.
And we are, and this is what one can do, but that
Prioritize.
we're also doing it, I think, for ourselves, because if we don't, so I think we couldn't live normally, and this is very important, because it dominates your balance of values and how right you are in this life. So I think that every one of us doing his or her best in this very natural order, as you said, dictated by faith, of course.
Well, Anna, we are definitely dedicated to continuing our support, both in prayer and resources. And we are going to continue to update our network through our different communication avenues. And we will consistently share with our viewers how to help beyond prayer, which is first and foremost, and to remind everybody that this is our mandate from God, from Yahweh, to help each other, to comfort, support each other, and it's the sanctity of life at every age, right? That we share our love for God by helping each other and comforting each other.
Thank you enormously. And Michael and I, we will produce some new good art, and we will be very happy to share it with everyone who support this very, very cordial and genuine and generous support, and we all are extremely grateful for everyone. Thank you very much.
No, thank you for all you do. And just want to remind our
We
viewers to
look forward to the Jerusalem Connection, Ukraine.
Yes.
you know,
yeah, maybe we'll have a tour
Absolutely.
when hostilities
We
cease. We can
will.
have the peace and reconciliation tour.
Exactly.
We will. We definitely will.
Patronize all the centers and small businesses. So
We will.
thank you so much, Ina, and
Thank
send
you.
our love to
Thank you, Amy.
Michael. Shelley,
Thank you,
thank you
Shelley.
for being here with us today, and everybody, Shavua Tov, and have a great week.